Did you know there is one organization in the Army that traces individual unit history, unit awards, and campaign credit? With over 8,000 units in the regular Army, Army Reserve, and Army National Guard, this task is completed by the Organizational History Division at the U.S. Army Center of Military History. So how can units from Corps and Division down to independent platoons and detachments update their own history? How can units apply for their lineage and honors or get campaign credit? And what is the proper procedure for units to activate or inactivate? For answers to these questions and more Army History Insights, stay tuned.
Welcome to the U.S. Army History and Heritage Podcast, the official podcast of the United States Army Center of Military History. The Center of Military History writes and publishes the Army's official history, manages the U.S. Army Museum Enterprise, and provides historical support throughout the U.S. Army.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the United States Army History and Heritage Podcast. I'm Lee Reynolds, the Strategic Communications Officer for the Center of Military History. In this episode, we're discussing one of CMH's newest publications, Unit History 101, Understanding Unit Lineage and Honors. And joining me for this discussion are Army historians and contributors to the publication, Joseph Seymour and Aaron Heft. Welcome, Joe and Aaron.
Thanks, Lee. It's great to be here.
Great to be here.
Great. Well, welcome back, Joe. And Aaron's new to the podcast, so welcome. So let me do a little introduction on who these gentlemen are. So born and raised in the Philadelphia area, Joe Seymour attended Lewis and Clark College, the Pennsylvania State University, the University of Edinburgh, and Temple University, earning a bachelor's and master's degree in history. He also served in Troop A, 1st Squadron of the 104th Cavalry Regiment, Pennsylvania Army National Guard, and worked as an Army historian since 2004. His primary professional focus is on organizational history, the history and culture of the American soldier in the 18th century, and the evolution of small arms and tactics during that era. And he's also authored several publications. Aaron Heft is a historian at the U.S. Army Center of Military History and a non-commissioned officer in the Maryland National Guard. He previously served as the non-commissioned officer in charge of the National Guard Bureau's Leader Development Program, where he managed the Combat Field Studies Staff Ride Program and helped establish the Leaders Recon podcast. He is a graduate of Gettysburg College and Norwich University, where he received his master's degree, and is the author of multiple articles on the U.S. Army in World War I. In 2025, he has forthcoming chapters in 2 anthologies focusing on World War I battlefield pilgrimage and defense support of civil authorities. And again, both of you currently work in the Organizational History Division for the Center of Military History. So that's what this publication is about. So what I loved about this book, Unit History 101, is that it's very informative, but it's also instructive and a guide that units can use. So first of all, let's talk about who should be reading this publication and why.
Well, Lee, I think what makes this publication pretty unique is it's really for all soldiers in all components in the United States Army and for the public as well. We really built it as a way to inform soldiers how unit history affects their everyday life in the Army, and kind of gives them a little bit of a guide from the lowest level Joe all the way up to the highest level commander for how you can use history and how you can see history in the Army every day.
Yeah, and before we get into the details about all of this, can you briefly explain what unit history is and why it's important? You mentioned it's important, it's something everyone should know, but why? Can you go into some more detail?
Well, yeah, certainly. The first and probably most important element that a soldier identifies with, and when I mean element, I'm talking about elements of the Army, elements of the force, is his or her unit. That it is in our units that we train and in our units that we fight, and so unit history has a great deal of resonance with a lot of soldiers. especially soldiers in the reserve components, the Army National Guard and the Army Reserve, because many of these are locally based and community based. But that is not to say that that within the regular Army, soldiers don't identify with their battalion, with their company. For example, the Old Guard here in the National Capital Region certainly generates a high degree of esprit de corps, and it's that esprit de corps that informs the soldier's informs the soldier's decision to enlist, but it also informs their decision to re-enlist. It's that sense of that sense of place, of belonging.
Yeah, and one of the things that that I've learned from lineage and honors and different units is, as when I was a private and then also as a second lieutenant, get to a unit, and I've got maybe 1 or 2 ribbons on, but then on the other side I have 3 or 4 ribbons, and then a cord that I get to put on, and that all came as a surprise to me. And I went from having almost nothing on my uniform to looking almost like General Patton, depending on the unit. So that established immediately a lot of pride for me.
Yeah, and I know that when I was a young soldier, it was the same. It was the same thing. It was identifying with that as those who came before us, and it is a remembrance, and it is a direct connection to the Army, stretching all the way back to 1775, and with the militia to 1636. And it is that can be an incredible motivator in some of our, when most challenging times. We can look back to those soldiers who came before, and they inspire us, and they remind us of why soldiers serve. So unit history is our primary product is the Lineage and Honor Certificate, and the Lineage and Honor Certificate is an official document. It's an official certificate that is to be displayed in a prominent area at a unit's headquarters. It is the unit that tells soldiers, as you pointed out, what they should wear on their service uniform. Yeah. What unit awards are authorized for that unit, and also which campaigns the unit has been in. It consists of 3 parts: an outline history, which tells how old the unit is, when it was organized, which reorganizations, redesignations it's gone through in the course of its long service or shorter service. And also then there's also the honors, which can be divided into campaign participation credit and decorations and other awards. There are actually honors that are not physical manifestations. They're not actually worn on the uniform or flown on the color or guidon. So that is what a Lineage and an Honor Certificate is, and it is for all soldiers, which is why it's displayed prominently, so that soldiers can be educated in their unit's history, but also so that they know what to display on their flags and to wear on their uniforms.
Yeah, and at what point did the Army start tracking all this campaign credit? When did it really become an organized program? It really,
that's a 2-part question.
Okay.
When the Army started to track it in the 19th century, and the idea of it was during the Civil War, when units began to display their honors on their colors, and it was actually on the national colors, occasionally on the regimental colors, and the Army very quickly realized that leaving it to the units, there'd be confusion. We really track the organized institutionalized concept back to the Hancock Board of 1877. Winfield Scott Hancock was asked to determine some very important principles that we use to this very day. What constitutes a battle? We use the term campaign now as war became more complex, but it was Winfield Scott and his aides who determined, hey, what is a battle? What is a campaign? And for the Army purposes, it's something of strategic significance, or it's something that a significant portion of the Army fought at. So an example of a strategically important battle would be Fort McHenry in 1814. The whole Army didn't fight there, but it was of prominence and significance, also of great symbolic and psychological significance. Now, a battle in which most of the Army fought would be Gettysburg in 1863. So and it is also a strategically important battle. So he started to determine that. He also determined how a unit could get campaign credit or battle credit. So again, he used a very logical rationale in that it's where a significant portion of a unit fought. And we use these principles to this very day.
We talked a little bit already about unit lineage and honors, but can you go in a little bit more detail about how units can get copies of the lineage and honors and where they should display these?
Sure, Lee. So, Joe mentioned kind of the pieces and the parts of lineage and honors when you visually look at it, but I really think the best description I've ever heard of it is it's a combination of a unit's birth certificate and its resume. Mm-hmm. So it shows you all the major force structure actions, it shows you the unit awards and the battle streamers. So it's something that, should be found in every unit's headquarters. A lot of units will frame them, put them on display. It's something to be proud of. It tells a story, whether your unit's the oldest in the Army or one of the newest formations that are coming out of this transformation initiative. So there's a lot of things to take pride in, regardless of how old it is. But if you do want a copy of it, if you need an update, you've got to reach out to us. So you can connect with us through the CMH website, and we'll get you an updated copy as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's history.army.mil. And so let's say, we 10 years ago, unit comes back from Iraq or Afghanistan, and they want their campaign credit. So how does that happen? Does the Army, does CMH, your team, your division, do you get the orders, or is it is the onus on the individual unit to submit that to you to get campaign credit? So how does that work for a unit?
Well, CMH doesn't authorize campaign credit. The U.S. Army Human Resources Command authorizes campaign participation credit. What we determine is whether a unit is eligible to display the honor. And we work with HRC very closely to determine things like, as Winfield Scott Hancock determined back in the 1870s, did enough of the unit participate in the particular campaign to merit that credit. And it's usually it's most of the unit, and at that point we will determine, okay, yes, the unit earned the honor. HRC may send us an order saying, yes, here they are entitled to national resolution. Here you go. And then, HRC will then publish a permanent order. Okay. So it's the order, what we use on a lineage and honor certificate has documentation. Every line of a lineage and honor certificate has documentation. Now, that can get more complicated in the National Guard because National Guard units constantly reorganize. And what was the unit that was, 10 years ago earned a campaign credit in Iraq, and I was just working on this morning right before I came over here, may have changed designations in the last 10 years. The soldiers changed. So then we will research the orders and determine, hey, what was the proverbial 123rd Infantry is now the 321st MP Battalion.
Right.
And so no, they get the credit for this, and that helps soldiers learn and explain. Oh yeah, hey, we used to be infantry, and a lot of soldiers ask us that question. Hey, we're a support battalion, but we've got crossed cannons over our armory sally port. Why is that? Well, it's because you were once field artillery. So, anything else to add to that?
Yeah. So I think you have a good question there, which is, who updates this and how do we get there? And I think the important thing to remember is that this can't be driven by CMH. As you mentioned, there's over 8,000 units in the Army. Yeah. This is at the commander's request. So it's up to units to keep up with their own mobilizations, to document some of that, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But really, it's got to be on the unit commander to request an updated copy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is not automatic, just simply because we have 8,000 units.
Right.
And unit history is not the domain of the Center of Military History. It is what we do to support units. Mm-hmm. But the unit history program is the responsibility of the commanding officers,
Right.
as Aaron points out.
Yeah, and then just to manage expectations, if a commander does request their lineage and honors, you may have a handful of requests, and so it's going to take a little bit of time, right? It's not as easy as they send in a request, I get it today, and we're mailing it out tomorrow.
Yes, we do not have a lineage Rube Goldberg machine that punches them out. Yeah.
Yeah, as Joe mentioned,
it could be months before they actually get it.
Sure, it does take some time. We do extensive research to make sure they're as accurate as possible.
Yeah.
So we want to, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, all those things to make
You're
sure.
the Ancestry.com for the U.S. Army, basically.
In a way, for sure.
Yeah.
But, if units have a time constraint, if they have a special event coming up or something like that, we try and work with them as much as possible. But, we do get dozens of requests almost weekly across the force. Yeah,
Wow.
it's a lot of contact.
And one of the nice things that I note that you and your division have done, we're in the Revolutionary War 250th commemoration time period. So there are how many units in the Army today that have lineage that go back to the Revolutionary War?
35.
35.
One of them is in the regular Army, the 1st Battalion, 5th Field Artillery Regiment, which we love. And then the other 34 are in the several states.
In the National Guard.
National Guard.
And you created special lineage and honor certificates for them.
Yeah, we did. Service certificates, a nice little thing to show what the unit did in the Revolutionary War.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's nice. A special design on them and all signed by the Secretary of the Army, I believe. Yeah, so that's neat. So when special occasions come up, you guys were on it before the commemoration started. So those are nice, and that's something really, really, really good for them to display at their unit. We talked about organizational history, right? That commanders are responsible for their own unit history here. Can you go a little bit more into detail on that? How can units maintain their own history and describe the purpose and the creation of an organizational history file?
Sure. So I spent a little time working as a historian in the field, in uniform before I came here to CMH. And organizational history files are really important. This is something that you control at your level, and you can build it pretty easily with the material that you use on a day-to-day basis. We looked at it in my old command as a yearly operation. So we would put in, our training schedule for the year, significant events, news articles that came out during the year, changes to the tow or the equipment that we had during the year. If we fielded anything new, like I remember when the M17 came out, that was a big thing for our unit. So we went through and had all the documentation on that. Our most recent lineage and honors, and anything else that kind of adds to the history of the unit. We tracked Valor Award recipients in that unit. So we had a running tally of anybody from any conflict that we could easily reference at the command level.
Oh,
so,
great.
Something simple like that is a great way to start an organizational history file, and then you just build on it year after year.
Yeah, and that's covered in the book as well, right?
Yeah.
Unit History 101. Right. And so it's really up to the commander. There's a guide there, like here's some basic things like you're talking about, but it could be as big and as in-depth as they want it.
Yeah, really, we also train unit historical officers here at CMH. We have an online program you can sign up for, and it helps you build the fundamentals of what to track and how to track it. And commanders can assign a UHO to build these organizational history files at their level. And really, it's can be anything from a brief, 2-pager on what the unit did each year to an extensive file that dates back to some of these Revolutionary War units that you talked about.
Right. Yeah. And that's something that each individual unit maintains at company level, separate platoon or detachment on up to division or corps.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, at every echelon. Yeah.
So, and then just to be clear for the audience is that's something the units maintain. That's not something that we keep here at CMH. So just want to make sure that people understand that that's for them to use.
Absolutely. I mean, we track major force structure actions, deployments, and things like that here, but we really consider what we have more a working file than an expansive archive. We keep the materials that's necessary to prepare a lineage and honors or a special designation or something like that. But the full history of the units, the after-action reports, that resides with the unit while it's active, and then it's turned over to the National Archives, at a interval every couple of years.
You talk in the book also about a difference in how the Army National Guard prepares lineages. Can you go into some detail about that?
Well, yeah, the National Guard, the Army National Guard, because of its dual status as both the organized militia of the state and as a reserve component of the Army, it is organized under slightly different legal precedents. And the National Guard was part of the organized militia of the colonies prior to the formation of the United States Army in 1775. And because of that, it is locally based. We, in a very, very concise statement, we track the continuity of legally constituted units through their personnel drilling in a particular geographic location. For example, in the city of Baltimore, there is an infantry battalion that has been continuously drilling since 1774. It has gone through various reorganizations and redesignations, so that just because a unit has the same designation as a historic unit does not necessarily mean that it has that history in the National Guard. Actually, once upon a time, that's the way the regular Army also traced its lineage, which is the reason why the 3rd Infantry Regiment is the oldest regular Army infantry regiment and not the 1st.
That's interesting.
Yes, we can track all of those changes. So in the regular Army and the Army Reserve, the designation perpetuates. The lineage is perpetuated through the designation, whereas in the National Guard, it's through, as I said, personnel continuously drilling in a geographic location, which is, I think, gets back to our earlier point about why unit history is so important to soldiers in the reserve component, because they are actually part of a very long line of soldiers, or a distinguished line from a soldier that organized just yesterday or just a few years ago. We don't make distinctions based on the age of the unit.
You mentioned, the Army National Guard goes all the way back to, is it 1635 or 36?
1636, and that is based on the way we trace unit history. And we have, the Army has always done it. There's actually a War Department memo, a circular, I believe, that was Peyton March actually stated that the designation does not in and of itself determine a unit's history. And this was in 1918 when a lot of units were redesignating, but not necessarily changing their personnel composition. Right. So the reason why we trace the units in the National Guard back to 1636 is that marks the continuity of 4 regiments that organized in Massachusetts. 13 December 1636, by order of the General Court of Massachusetts, they organized the North, South, and East Regiment. And so those units are today perpetuated in the Massachusetts Army National Guard. It does not mean that is when the first militia units were created. So, there are soldiers in different states who say, well, we're older, but no, Massachusetts has been continuously drilling.
Yeah, I know that we don't like to talk about firsts because it's just really difficult to do.
Yes. Yeah.
But so on the lineage and honors for some of these Army units, and I guess more specifically for the National Guard, will their lineage and honors go back before 1775, or officially for the Army it can't? I mean, can you clarify that?
Oh, yeah. Because those units are maintained as part of the militia of that state. And they are, that history is tracked prior to the establishment of the United States Army. The United States Army is an organization that is comprised of those 3 components. So, the militia being a part of the Army, and when federalized, they are part of that reserve component. But it was actually, the Army flag has Lexington as a streamer, and there are units of the Massachusetts Army National Guard that carry Lexington as their as one of their campaign participation credits through the Middlesex Regiment, to be specific. So it's it does get into a chicken and egg question. But yeah, the militia being a part of the Army through its dual status.
I think that also leads you into a great point when you're looking at Guard lineages. From these early militia days, it shows their founding and their organization. But really, in the modern era, what we track is federal mobilizations and activations. So you won't see on a National Guard lineage, called up for Hurricane Agnes or deployed. For a DISCA mission. But you will see federal activations and you will see deployments that way and kind of changes to the force structure authorized by the Army.
And a federal
That's a good point. Good clarification.
It's very important because a period of federal service may not result in a campaign streamer. So, for example, many National Guard units were federalized for the Mexican border in 1916 and 1917, and there is a streamer for the punitive expedition. But by law, in 1916, 1917, the National Guard could not deploy outside of the United States. So the punitive expedition was all regular Army, and the National Guard was on the border in case Mexico invaded, but the punitive expedition was not a National Guard operation. So we get questions like that.
Yeah, and you're talking about the streamers, so let's talk about that for a little bit. The on the Army flag, all right, there's 100 and I can't remember, like 130 something campaign streamers. I know for the Revolutionary War there's 17 for that. So we call them campaign streamers, as you pointed out. It may have been a one-day battle, or it could have been, something over 6 or 7 months. Who determines that those streamers? Is that here at CMH, or is that something that HRC determines?
So HRC does determine the campaigns themselves, the start and end dates, and those aspects of it, and we work with them to help ensure that a unit's history accurately captures where it's been and what it's done. Okay. A good thing to point out with streamers too is that not every battle has a streamer itself. Some of these are wider campaign actions. Some are named battles. Some are just theater service or service in a time of war. So, I recently completed a lineage for a unit that served in Panama and Hawaii during World War II in defensive operations. So they received a campaign streamer for the Asiatic and Pacific Theater, but it doesn't have any battle name tied to it because they were serving in defensive operations.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Gets into another point too, because yesterday, the last couple of days, I was looking at a unit from the Michigan Army National Guard, and it's a medical unit that has it's a consolidation. If you trace your history back to more than one unit, as the units reorganize and consolidate, and the infantry companies were part of the 32nd Division before the war, when it was a square division. But then when the division became a triangular division, the one battalion stayed stateside. So this unit served, in some cases, all the way back to the 1890s, but its infantry elements had World War I credit with the 32nd Division, but their World War II credit was stateside. But then they got their World War II credit, in the Pacific Theater, Papua New Guinea and all that, from their medical service as part of a medical battalion, and so a lot of these that is the purpose of a lineage, is to say, how did you get that credit? And sometimes you think it was a combat unit. No, it was a medical unit doing important things.
I think Unit History 101, the goal here, too, is to lay out how a lot of these actions work. And, well, you may not understand everything from a first look at a lineage and honor certificate. It can be a little confusing, the way things consolidate, reorganize, or what an annex is, and all of that type of stuff. But it kind of gives you a start by reading this book, how to get into that, to delve into that. And then we're always available to help you navigate it.
Right. And these are online as well.
Yes,
The lineage and honors. People can look them up
absolutely.
for their own unit.
Yes, we just did a major update of the website here, and we have PDF copies of the most recent up-to-date. Not everything's up there for every unit in the Army. As we said, there's thousands of them, and we're working through them. But they will be
It's a
uploaded.
small team, too.
Yeah, just a handful of us, a squad-sized element.
Yeah. If somebody I commanded a small unit, it was public affairs, a broadcast operations detachment, 40 people, and we were in Iraq twice, and so we got to have a campaign streamer on our guidon. But what's the process of getting that? How do they reach out to CMH, or do units have to reach back to HRC to get that campaign streamer?
There are several organizations that work closely together for different aspects of unit history and unit the heraldic items that go with that. So to requisition their streamers, the units have to go to TACOM.
Oh, okay.
So, but then they need a statement of their lineage and honors.
From
to
us,
show,
from CMH.
to show that officially, yes, you are authorized Iraqi service.
So that's the first
whatever.
step.
That's the first step.
Okay.
So oftentimes we work in tandem with TACOM to get their streamers. But again, we need the orders from HRC. HRC authorizing, hey, that unit is entitled to that, and then we say, hey, is it entitled to display? Because because of a lot of the things we've discussed here, and that are discussed in more detail in Unit History 101.
Yeah, I mean, Joe points out a really good point here, which is that it's multiple organizations working together. So if you have something that you are trying to determine, trying to figure out, trying to get ordered, we can help you get the documentation for it. And if we're not the person that does that action, we can help get you in contact with the right person.
And maintaining that good organizational history file is a great first step in doing this.
Essential. It's absolutely
because we had and I remember after we came back from Iraq, we had the orders for our unit, and so I can't remember if we went to HRC or we just took those orders and we reached out to CMH to get the updated lineage and honors, but we got that streamer and it made a big difference for the unit. It was, we talked about earlier, the esprit de corps, the morale boost that you get from doing these things. And it was huge. And, I really encourage anyone out there that's listening to this to do this for your unit. You see streamers on battalion colors all the time, but separate units, platoons, companies, you can have battle streamers on your guidons. And it's a big boost for the units to display those. So I want to make sure people are understand that process and can get these for their units.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not every unit is entitled to its own unique battle streamers. Subordinate elements of a battalion may not have their own specific honors, but many do. And we can help determine that, help find that info for you.
And even if you're a detachment of a unit, that's authorized to guide on, say we have split stationing in the National Guard. Even if you're a detachment, you carry your own lineage.
Right.
So you may very well be, you may not be entitled to display it, but you carry that lineage. And if at some later date you reorganize as a unit entitled to a guidon, or even conceivably an organizational flag, then those honors will be displayed. So it's maintaining that organizational history file. It's very important.
Another part of this publication, Unit 101, that I found fascinating was special designations. And I love the fact that you use the 25th Infantry. I was in the 25th for about 4 years, so we were Tropic Lightning. I was in Davarti, so we were Tropic Thunder. But those are official. Those weren't just nicknames that we called it then. There is actually a process for units to go through to get these special designations, these special nicknames completely authorized. And I guess you get orders for those. Can you talk about the process for that and maybe some other examples?
Sure. Yeah. So, special designations are one of those things, like you mentioned, that can help bring esprit de corps to your unit. Much like lineage and honors, they'll actually appear on the certificate itself. If you have an official special designation, you also get your own certificate that declares why you have this designation.
Oh, cool.
We also do unit days for specific anniversaries in the same manner. But for special designations, really it comes down into two types. There's distinctive, which really can be just selected by a unit based on their function or role or something important to them. It has to be within good taste. We have to approve it. But
Hold the standards of the United States Army.
right, absolutely. But the other category would be traditional designations, which have been used by a unit for 30 years or more. And, a great example of this is, there's a lot of units out there that have an unofficial nickname they've gone by for a long time. Recently, Joe got officially authorized the Harlem Hellfighters for the 369th Sustainment Brigade.
So that wasn't official until recently. It was just a nickname that
everyone knew it,
right,
and it was always
very
assumed,
cool.
it was always used, but it was never official.
Yeah.
So we can provide the certificates. We can officially enter it into the record for the Army. There's some really unique ones out there, like you talked about Tropic Lightning. We talked about the Harlem Hellfighters. When we tie back to these revolutionary units for the 250th, the 1st Battalion I was in was 1st Battalion of the 111th Infantry. Went by the name Associators, which, when you saw it on all of our records and you heard it as a call sign, a lot of people were like, hey, what is that? What's an associator? That doesn't even look grammatically correct. But what it was the Revolutionary War era, or even before that, colonial militia name for that organization. Okay. So you could see the history carried through this traditional designation all the way down to task forces deployed by that unit, to call signs in the battlefield. So, there's really unique ways to utilize this, but they don't have to be that old. Recently we did a lineage for a unit who's requesting a distinctive designation of the Seminole Battalion, and they were actually given permission by the Seminole Nation, the Seminole people, to use that as a designation. So there's a lot of different ways you can acquire one, but they all bring that sense of pride to the unit.
Yeah, and some other examples that I can think of, the 82nd, the All-Americans, right, or the Big Red One. And so would that be you said there were two types, right?
Sure.
So All-American or Big Red One, what type is that?
Yeah, so if it's been used for 30 years or more, it's traditional.
Traditional.
If it's younger than that, it's distinctive.
And if you are a lettered element, company, troop, battery of a battalion, to qualify for a traditional designation, it's 50 years.
Okay.
And so we recently passed a milestone with a company from Indiana. I think they're a company now, the 2nd of the 134th Cavalry Regiment, but they change battalions from time to time. But they were known as the Indiana Rangers during the Vietnam War. They were a National Guard unit that deployed to Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and they are now officially authorized the traditional designation of Indiana Rangers.
So this is happening. This is going on, and the book explains how to do this. But again, this is really on the unit to send a request here to CMH.
Yes, absolutely. Right to our office, just like you would a lineage and honors request. There's examples of how to request it, what you can use for
There's
documentation.
memo examples in the book that show you. So it's a great book, Unit 101, Establishing Unit Lineage and Honors. I think it's the subtitle. So it's a great book. It's got a lot of information in there on how to do all this stuff. And like I said, it's an educational book. It's informational, but also instructive for units. So really want to make sure that units have a copy of this. So how can units get a copy of this publication?
So it's available for free on our website, a PDF version. If you want to request a hard copy, you can order it through. Yeah,
you go on our website, and there's a way to order that. So if you're in DoD, right, Department of Defense, Department of the Army, any unit can get these for free, the hard copies for free. You can also, if you're a civilian and you're interested in this, it's because it's got a lot of good history in the book too. So you can purchase it from the government printing office, or it's open to everybody as a free PDF download from our website, history.army.mil. Just go to our publications tab, and you can select the book, Unit History 101. All right, so I think, is there anything else about this that, before we get into our our HUA trivia. Is there anything else that you wanted to add that we missed?
Well, that to units out there and commanders out there, unit history is yours. It is ultimately your responsibility. We are here to record it and to make it official, but maintain those records.
Yeah, I think another thing to think about too is that unit history doesn't just reside in a book or in a lineage and honor certificate. There's plenty of ways to use it in training, in morale events. I see everything from dining in centered around historic events to recently the Army National Guard's National Best Warrior Competition incorporated a lot of unit history into the events, physical events, events at historic sites. So there's a lot of ways to integrate this into your training plan as well.
Yeah, I love that idea about using unit history for these types of events. We've got big commemorations ongoing, of course, Revolutionary War ongoing right now. We've got the Vietnam. We just passed the 50th anniversary commemorations, but now we're in the 60th anniversary. I know Nha Trang 60th is this year in November. So there's and then Korean War 75th. Commemorations are ongoing right now. So units, look at your lineage and honors, request a copy or go online and you can see them from our website as well and tie history into your events.
Absolutely. And wherever there's been American military history, it's been the units of all three components that have been there. And maybe as you're hearing this, you can think back to your unit and the great acts of valor and the great acts of service that your unit helped to provide that are part of the history of the United States.
Now, before we close, it's time for our segment called HUA Trivia. So this is a piece of significant Army trivia about the topic, about unit history here. So is there something that you can share about unit history or lineage and honors?
So I'll tee this up for Joe, but I think probably one of the most common questions we'll use as our trivia today. When you go to your lineage and honor certificate and you go all the way down to the honors or the decorations portion of the certificate, a lot of times you'll see awards from our allied nations, our partner nations that we work with. There's a lot listed, everything from a Philippine Presidential Unit citation to mentioned in the orders of the day of the Belgian Army. There's a lot of different ways that our allies have recognized U.S. Army units over time. But there is only one award that you will see on a lineage and honor certificate from a partner nation that is authorized for temporary wear in the United States Army. So, Joe, do you want to tell them what that one is?
Yeah, and there are two types of unit awards: authorized for temporary wear and permanent wear. Temporary wear means you wear it as long as you're in the unit. Permanent wear, you wear it if you were in the unit when it earned the honor. So that's a question we get a lot. So the only foreign award that is authorized for temporary wear is the French Fourragère.
Oh.
And it has to say that the French Fourragère is authorized on the lineage and honor certificate because the French Fourragère is conferred by the Republic of France. So it is a high honor indeed to be able to wear that for temporary wear.
There's several units in the Army today that earned it in World War I and several that earned it in World War II. And you can find that, like we said, in the decorations section of your lineage and honor certificate.
Okay. Well, great. That's good to know. And this has been fascinating. It really is. I enjoyed going through the publication. There's a lot that I learned there and a lot of reflections back to when I was in units and commanding units and figuring out all this stuff. So, but it's very helpful. It's extremely useful. So, again, people can get this by going to history.army.mil and our publications tab there. And so great. Thank you so much, Joe and Aaron, for your insights today about Unit History 101. And if anyone wants to learn more about unit history, lineage and honors, or learn more about Army history in general, then I encourage you to explore our website at history.army.mil. And if you want to experience Army history every day, then visit us on our social media sites on Facebook, X, and Instagram. So thanks for joining us today on the United States Army History and Heritage Podcast. For the Center of Military History, I'm Lee Reynolds, and until next time, we're history.
The views expressed in this podcast reflect those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views, policies, or opinions of the U.S. Army or Department of Defense. For more information about the Army's proud history and heritage, go to history.army.mil.